Hi, Grover, Blue Collar Codes, Leetcode series, problem 495, Teemo attacking. You wish to follow along, link in the video summary. This problem is you're given a time series list. Each one of these integers, you can consider it a time that an attack took place, and the time the attacks took place on a spectrum, 0 to infinity. So an attack took place here in example 1 on second 1 and then second 4, and then each time you make a successful attack, which is every time, you have an amount of damage that can take place over the distance. Now it doesn't stack. And so if you're unfamiliar with gaming at all and how you can have like poison attacks or bleeding attacks that cause damage every second the battle goes on, that's the concept here. And so based on the distance between these attacks, can you take the full damage amount in duration or not? And then what happens at the last time you take damage? You take the full duration. And so let's dive over to my problem or my response to it, answer, and then we'll go over a different solution. Not necessarily the top upvoted. It doesn't appear like this problem has had much popularity, at least as far as Python submissions. But to jump over my example, basically I'm using a while loop, popping the items out of the time series. If there isn't a time series anymore, you're just going to take full damage in the last attack and then break out. Otherwise, I'm going to find the distance between the two attacks to see if it is greater than or less than the amount of duration. If it's greater than, you can take the full damage. If it's less than, then you take a portion of the damage, and then you return damage. Now, I don't know how much merit you can actually give the Leetcode's timing mechanism for or space and timing for time and space complexity they give you, but mine was not high on the list as far as time complexity, but space complexity was good for some reason. Now this other solution just had kind of a unique way of starting a for loop, and that's the main reason I took it. It was also high on the supposed time complexity, meaning it was one of the lowest times it took. But when I actually plugged it into mine and clicked submit, it was, closer to my original answer than the 5 milliseconds that it said it took. But I digress. So, the one unique thing I'd like to cover here is one, if you go over this just, for face value, it's going to be a bit more confusing right off the bat. Like, what's going on here? Like, what is he doing? Until I realized that basically he or she needed to set this previous to something that's always going to be higher or greater, so that this little mechanism here would be able to, one, it would be able to loop through item by item and then not accidentally try to compare a previous item that doesn't exist, right? So it needed to have kind of a default value, and so that's all that this was. But initially it kind of confused me because I was like, what are they doing? And basically they're looping through each item itself and not creating a range, so they're not like accessing things by index, and that might actually make it a bit faster, and also a bit may save on memory just because you don't have to have, say, a range being generated that's generating these index values, and it would save a bit on space. They also don't have a separate, you know, distance being calculated and stored in a variable, so that would save on space than mine. So you have a placeholder for the first iteration through their loop, basically, and that's what this is. It will always, since it's adding the duration to the actual time, making it all negative, it's going to, and then subtracting it from the current value of the first time series, if we're just envisioning the first time through the loop, so it's always going to have a higher value. And then it skips past. Then finally, we're at the second item in the loop. We've stored the actual first previous item, no longer the placeholder up here, and then now you're iterating through it and basically doing the same kind of comparisons that everyone that's making response to this answer has to do. Is it longer or shorter than duration, and then you add or subtract. Where mine was just pure addition, theirs is subtracting from the result based on this calculation here. So, this is Blue Collar Codes, Quick and Dirty, Teemo Attacking, problem 495. Thanks for joining.